The Echo Chamber, brought to you by The Holmes Report and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers. And sponsored by March Communications, connecting innovation and people.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Echo Chamber. I'm Maya Pawinska-Sims, the Home Report's EMEA editor, and it's a little crowded in the studio today because, albeit joyously so, because I'm joined by not one, not two, but three guests for the first time. Nik Govier, Katy Stolliday and Stuart Lambert, the three founding partners of Blurred, billed as a new kind of agency for a blurred world. So welcome, chaps, and congratulations on your launch.
Thank you.
Hello. Now, I know I promised you champagne, but train issues have got in the way of me purchasing the Tattinger on the way in, so we'll have to do that another time. I'm sorry about seeking forgiveness. But so, Nick, of course, you're one of the founders of creative agency Unity, one of the most award-winning agencies in the UK, if not everywhere. Blurred is your first venture since you left at the end of last year. Katy, you were a board director at Unity and then had a stint at Brands to Life as the Deputy MD Consumer. And Stu, until recently, the strategy and creative director at Weber Shandwick. So welcome, lovely to have you all here. I know you all a little bit, and I don't think it's just me being excitable when I say this looks a bit like a PR agency dream team.
Oh, lovely. Let's give us a glass of champagne now. We're over that.
There is no champagne. But what reaction have you had from the industry and from clients and potential clients since you went public?
Do you guys want to kick off?
Very, very positive. Quite overwhelming, I think. Like, we obviously hoped that the launch would be, a positive thing, but actually the amount of just positive messages that we had from people was really quite overwhelming. I think all of us heard from a number of different people, that we'd met through out the career and our careers, and it's going really well so far.
Lovely.
It's been incredible, even the reaction in terms of potential clients and new business.
Really?
We had one of those meetings on Monday when we were like, oh my God, how do we deal with this? How do we divide and conquer? What do we prioritise? Which is pretty much the dream start to any new business.
That's a nice position to be in.
Yeah, exactly. And just a reaction to, the very simple film we did, and we intentionally kind of stripped it kind of back, has been phenomenal. So, dead excited.
Good. Excellent start. So, Nick, I'm going to come back to you first. There was quite a lot of shock in the industry when you left Unity at the back end of last year. You'd formed it with Joey Hopkinson in 2005, and it was almost like hearing like a couple that you thought were like had the perfect marriage had split up. What was that like for you, leaving your baby, as it were?
Very good question. Something I've thought about a lot since. It was incredibly difficult. We'd had a long and very productive and successful relationship and friendship. So to make a call like that was obviously very difficult, but it actually surprised me how quickly, once the decision had been kind of made, how quickly I then kind of moved on. I just think it's part of my nature is just to be excited about the next kind of thing.
That's
So, very difficult decision to make in terms of leaving the thing that I'd loved and nurtured and close friendships, etc. But very quickly it was about like what next, and what's out there in the world, how things change and how could we build and do things differently now. So it's been dead exciting.
What have you done since? I mean, what have you done this year? What's your journey been to get to this point with lovely Katy and Stu?
So I promised myself to keep an open mind for 3 months, which for me at the time seemed like a ludicrous amount of time. And
I bet that flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Honestly, the box sets I caught up with, phenomenal. I was very behind. So I did that because I wanted to make sure that if I did something again in terms of creating a new consultancy, it wasn't just because it's what I've done, that it was the right thing to do. So I kind of did keep an open mind in terms of taking a job even or becoming a consultant. But clearly I woke up with my 3-month deadline, ping, and it was incredibly clear what I was going to do. And then I'd used the time before, but also up until launch, really, to just meet all the people I hadn't met and broadly just get out in the industry. But better than that, I did some things that, will forever stay with me. Like, I live in the country and my kids go to the village school, and I became the crochet and cross-stitch teacher at Evershall Primary School.
That's
I know, amazing,
right?
But for me, that was incredible. But what was just totally inspirational for me is I would do 2 or 3 days a week in London, pack those days. I'd go to Albright, which I'm an investor in, and would just meet some people that I'd never managed to meet, others that were just total random strangers that I'd hit up and said, you look interesting, do you want to have a chat? I ended up going to the House of Lords. I met, incredible people. And all the time I had this concept in my mind, and what was just incredible was I almost refined it with the most incredible group of individuals over an 8-month period. So it's almost like this was co-created, not just by the three of us here, but actually by 200 odd people of the greatest and good of our industry and advertising world and media world, of all the people that I just kind of met over the period. So oddly, even though I wasn't working, I probably learned more in that 8-month period than I'd learned in the previous 3 or 4 years.
And once you decided, no, it's definitely back to starting a new agency for me, how did you connect with, or reconnect with Katy, and then connect with Stu and realise the three of you had something a bit magical?
Well, intentionally, again, I didn't want to jump to any conclusions, but Katy and I always had an incredibly good working relationship, and there was a huge amount of mutual respect. But, I broadly cast the net wide because I wanted to go out there and meet new people. But it just very quickly came back to Katy, and me actively wanting her to be involved. And there was kind of 3 categorisations of people I'd talked to Blurred about from a kind of bringing partners on board. There would be the people who you would talk about the concept and they wouldn't really react. There'd be those who the light would switch on. And then there was basically pretty much only Stu, who's the third category, which was the light was already on. He was already talking the same language in the same kind of way. There was no like, oh my God, that's a really interesting concept. He was like, yeah.
So
I know.
You two knew each other a bit though, didn't you, beforehand as well?
You could say that.
We've known each other on and off for, since the Unity early days. So my wife, who's now at Freud's, was one of Unity's first employees, I suppose.
Yeah.
Such an incestuous industry.
It's a small world. It is a small world.
But we were mainly awards dues. We'd
bump into each other.
And normally go like, oh my God, I've had another baby. I'm so tired. And you'd be like, yeah, why didn't no one tell us this? But it was interesting because I met some brilliant people.
Yeah.
It wasn't just relying on the contacts of old. It just happened to be the reason we came together is we were the right mix. But I met pretty much everyone, during that time period. And then it was just quite magical when we came together. That has been one of the most unexpectedly rewarding things for me, is when the three of us come together in the room, plus then the others as well, like our non-exec director and various other people. The connection is instant, and we finish each other's sandwiches. No, quoting from something. But there was just a thing where we complement each other and bring out the best in each other, and they definitely have strengths where I have weaknesses, which is always a handy thing.
Yeah, well, that's the measure of a good team, isn't it? You all balance each other out. Katy, what was the attraction for you of rejoining Nik in this venture?
Well, it wasn't a quick decision, should we say, because I think we had worked together before, and I think sometimes your first sort of thought is that you should never go back, and that's sort of the thing that stays with you. But I think to Nik's point, we had an amazing working relationship. When we were working well together, we were working amazingly well, and we could do really great work. For me, the attraction was not only working with Nik again, but actually being able to start something right from the word go and be involved in something right from the beginning, rather than going into a business that's already existing and it has people at the front of it guiding the business in a certain direction. There's only so much change I think you can bring to other people's businesses, whereas if you're involved in something from the beginning, obviously hopefully it has its financial upsides as well, but also it means that you can actually truly put your own stamp on things, and I think I had quite a clear view of what I wanted to do within the industry. And obviously Nik and I had that shared view, and then Stu as well, and it just felt like the right time. You can put that sort of thing off forever, and the opportunity doesn't come around that often.
No,
so
it really doesn't, does it?
Yeah.
You've got to grab it.
Exactly.
So what about you, Stu? When what was the attraction of joining these two lovely ladies on the journey?
I mean, for me, I am
Very nice to us now.
gorgeous and
really lovely ladies.
wonderful people. I mean, I spent the last 8 years at probably the world's biggest PR agency, very successful firm, and I had a quite a meandering journey, deliberately so, over those 8 years, from corporate to tech to B2B, consumer, strategy, creative. So I almost had, 7 or 8 job titles during that period. And what that, it wasn't by design, but I think what that showed me and made me really clearly see was the value in hybrid skill sets, being able to, do strategy and creative and understand that they're two sides of the same blurred coin.
Yeah.
And that was something I was feeling quite passionately, that the value in hybrids. And I think one of the worst words in our industry that's become a bit of unfortunately, a label that's stuck quite a lot is this pejorative generalist. It's, you kind of have to specialise in one thing. And what almost worries me a little bit about the direction of the industry is that I think a large portion of our industry is re-gearing itself almost like an old ad agency model into quite narrow specialisms. And for me, I think it's, and I have felt for quite a long time, that's complete opposite the way we should be going, given the blurring of the lines between industries and skill sets and politics and the economy and everything. And so I had kind of determined that actually I needed to do something else. I didn't know what it was going to be, but something where I could, rather than have to specialise in one thing, either start somewhere or join somewhere new where the value of that kind of hybrid strategy, creative thinking would be really appreciated and let us do new things. And so it was very much a fateful meeting when I sat down with Nik, because we were just catching up for a coffee. And it was a bit of an epiphany, I think, wasn't it?
It was.
And you're right.
But you remember,
I was already in the place you were at.
But it messed up because it wasn't the role I was looking for. So I actually sent an email to Stu saying it was lovely meeting you, but in reality you're not what I'm looking for. And then only because there was a slightly different structure in place at the time. And then Nick Porter, who's our non-exec director responsible for kind of purpose and people, went back to her and said, but this guy he is one of us, this is right. And she was like, but it's not what we've talked about. And I was like, just you go and meet him and then you see. And she rang me afterwards and she was like, God damn you. And God damn him. You're right. We're going to have to... Literally, do you not know this? Oh, my God. We're going to have to rethink the structure.
So the structure of the agency has changed because you met Stuart?
Yeah, literally.
We
met faithfully for
I
can't believe you don't know this. Have we missed it? So then I dropped him a line again and said, look, you haunt my dreams. in a good way. Let's kind of meet and talk again. But that's actually, if it's appropriate to talk about our structure, that's actually how our eventual structure was then born, because at the time we wanted a kind of hardcore heavyweight corporate person on the board full time and blurred, and we'd had some quite extended conversations with some people, but none of it was quite right. And at the time we were exploring having this cohort of kind of real brilliant kind of creatives that we would have as part of our team. So there was going to be the core team, heavyweight corporate person as part of that, and then an incredible mix and blend of creative talent that we could pull in. And what we just realised was actually kind of Stu was one of us, a polymath, someone who could talk at a very senior level to CEOs, but could also flex right across the consulting bit to the full creative spectrum. So we said, why don't we do the flip side of the creative cohort and create a consulting cohort? Yeah. Because there's some brilliant people we'd met that, for various reasons, might have been right as full-time founding partners, but were nonetheless great. And so basically, through Stu, we ended up creating this new model where we have these deep kind of specialisms in terms of incredible talent, consulting talent, people from Downing Street, people from FTSE boardrooms, kind of world experts in very niche consulting things. And then on the other side, absolute joyous kind of creative human beings, some superstars, some 18-year-olds, an amazing classic blend. And that's why we can genuinely say world-class consulting meets world-class creative, because the people we've pulled in our cohorts have those. And we're not a virtual agency by any stretch of the imagination. And these aren't freelancers. These are heavyweight consultants that could hold their own with, frankly, anyone, anywhere. And that's super exciting for us.
So where did tell me a bit more about the name Blurred and what the kind of the core proposition of the agency is, and then we'll talk a bit more about those cohorts.
So essentially, the world is changing at this unfathomable pace, and everywhere we look there is a blurring of lines. We've been talking about that with marketing disciplines for well over a decade, but increasingly also in terms of audience groups, corporate, consumer, and even internal and external. They just simply no longer stand as distinct groups. But even in terms of human beings, like we no longer universally define ourselves as old, young, gay, straight, or even male or female. You know, I'm a 43-year-old mother of 2 that lives in the country. I am in no way the person that most data would throw up and describe me as. And most people talk about, you know, they might not use the language of blurred, but they say, you know, we've got to find ways to, you know, mitigate problems within this blurred world or navigate it. But, you know, it's one of the insights that Stu brought to us. It's like, you know, it's actually, yes, we can do that, but so much more than that. This blurred world is rife with opportunity, not rife, full of opportunity. Right, that's it. That's it. You can see how, you know, there you go. We're working straight away. I get the wrong word, they correct me. You know, right, with opportunity, you know, and that's what's exciting to us, you know, the businesses and brands that say, you know what, the world has changed. We're going to do things differently. We're going to wear our heart on our sleeve, or we're going to make our purpose not something that exists in the background, but is front and centre, like Nike did with Colin Kaepernick, for example. You know, those are the companies that are, you know, days, years, light years away from others. So that's what's exciting to us. It's not just about navigating a blurred world. So I keep saying mitigating. Navigating a blurred world. It's about the inherent opportunity that exists within it. Yeah. And with us as well, like so many, we so often like look to ourselves, and it's about us and what we can deliver. And I think what we believe is businesses need to stop doing that and need to look around at the world that they exist in. So intentionally we're talking about the world they operate in rather than about ourselves. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of that goes on in PR, isn't there? There's a lot of navel gazing. You know, how can we be a different agency, a better agency? How do we talk about ourselves? And actually it's like, we'll just look outwards.
That's exactly it. So we went, what is happening with the world? The world is now blurred. That is the situation that exists. How can we rebuild? How can we build an agency for that? And how can our clients take advantage of that? But it's funny, those that don't work in marketing are like, blurred, that's a really negative name. Like my dad was like, oh, no. But those that do kind of get it. So, but so far people are really getting it, and particularly clients, when you explain that model with the cohorts, and they're like, hold on, you're saying I could get access to these incredible names, and then, you know, we'll pay for them, you know, good money for them. But when we no longer need them, they disappear again. And that's really attractive, because I think they're used to a world where people have these huge, you know, big names on their payrolls, and the clients know that you're just trying to make a margin off the back of them, and they're being pushed on you. Whereas with us, genuinely, those are world-class people. And our clients understand that if they have a problem, we have someone that can help with that problem. They will pay good money for it then and there, but when it's done, it goes away again. So I think it's a model for a modern world as well as a blurred world.
Sounds like a bit like the opening titles to the A-Team as well.
Yeah, well, definitely. We like that. Bagsby BA.
Your cohorts, your bank of creative heavyweights and consultancy heavyweights, can you tell me any of them? When are we going to get the news?
We can't at the moment. And
this is very tantalising. This is just, I know. Frankly.
We will be releasing some names over time, but part of that is we want to kind of almost... We don't want to have all the names on show, because part of it is these are people we've got long-term relationships with. Some of these are, you know, our long-term friends of ours. Some of them are exclusive, some of them are not. But for us, it's more about the skills they present rather than giving other people a shopping list of people, really. But over time, we will be revealing some of those key people.
I will hold you to that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about... So that whole structure is clearly different. What else is different about the way you're going to be able to service clients and solve their business problems? Katy, do you want to...
I think everything comes back to our purpose. So we talk, a lot of the work that we're planning to do and already doing for clients is helping them navigate the world that they operate in and identifying exactly what their purpose is and what they stand for. There's no point in us telling clients that they need to do that if we can't do it ourselves. So we spent some time really thinking through what the blurred proposition was and why we existed, and we came back to one word, which was depth. So everything that we do is designed to bring depth to the businesses that we work with. If you think of the industry overall, reputationally we have as an industry sometimes and often been referred to as quite superficial. So for us, Blurred exists to be able to bring that depth in quite a superficial industry, which as the industry stands or does stand at the moment. So we have a number of different elements that we sort of sense check against in terms of that depth of offer. So, it's depth of thinking, making sure that we're really bringing divergent perspectives to the table, the reason that we've got the cohorts set up as they are, and the reason that we three are similar in a lot of ways but also very different in a lot of ways is so that we can bring a different level of thinking to clients.
That's why the dyslexic is allowed to be in the group, because we at Blurred embrace the slight differences we have, because we know it brings them different opinions.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and I think that depth really stretches in terms of depth of talent as well. So those connections that we've got, making sure that it's not just a broad, huge number of names that we work with, but actually really deep relationships with them. That, we have a set of values within the business, and anyone within our cohort has to sign up, for want of a better phrase, those sets of values. If we meet someone that we don't feel ticks the boxes in terms of the values and things that we stand for, then we wouldn't work with them. We want people who have a shared vision really as us. And I guess coming back to depth, that's the thing that we hope that we'll be offering that's very different to other agencies. It's about having deep relationships with clients as well, making sure that we're really spending the time to get to know their business and understand how they operate, and make sure that we're then able to really produce depth of thinking for them that will change that impact and bring them depth of impact that they're all after.
So in terms of what that depth of thinking and your values and purpose as an agency, how is that going to achieve better business results for clients than the classic agency setup?
I think that's good.
I mean, yeah, for me, that's the key to all of this, that depth is the value, but it's what we'll achieve through that deeper thinking that is truly differentiating. And it comes back to what Nik said before in terms of opportunity. I think collectively as an industry over the years, over the decades, we have largely overcomplicated what is actually a simple set of relationships between companies, their context, be that social, cultural, political, and people, human beings. And we've created these artificial labels, consumers, corporates, it's all in and of itself inherently meaningless. And I actually think stripping it back to those simple basics is what allows us to apply that deeper thinking to unlock true commercial opportunity for clients. So and I think I speak for all of us, we have very little ambition to do superficial publicity work. What we're interested in doing is work that truly transforms businesses, not just their reputation. But it counterintuitively, it is by revealing actually how simple the world is, rather than that defensive posture of, oh, look at all the uncertainty, you need help to defend yourself against it. And that's been something that the PR industry has done for years, because, of course, it's subconsciously it's an attempt to make things seem difficult so that clients need to pay us lots of money to help them navigate it. And actually, I really, really genuinely believe that can be flipped, and we can go in on a much more positive footing and with a much more positive mindset and say, comms strategy is actually business strategy, and if you give us your ear and let us show you the depth of thinking we can bring, we're not just going to get you coverage, that word that I loathe. We're going to truly help grow or evolve or transform your business, something inherently and obviously meaningful.
Yeah. Stu and I went into a new business meeting on launch day, actually, for a huge global multi-million pound business, and it was actually very open. They were more like, look, we're 25 years old, what should we be doing? And we didn't talk about even tactical routes or PR or even communications once within that meeting. It focused solely on us saying, who are you? Let's work with you, let's find that out, let's kind of take the essence of what you are and then work the story for the next 25 years out of that. But even the word story, like I've said there, is wrong. It's inherently about, purpose, what they stand for, working with the CEO very closely, even to the extent it's touching management consultancy, really, because it's a bit like, actually, we need to reframe your timing. You need to free up 15% of your time to be an ambassador to your people. It was about, the many tens of thousands of people that work for them and how they need to operate. So that's just showing how it's right at the other end of the scale. We're not about promoting people's CSR campaigns even. We're about creating them and working out that stuff. So it's a different. It's different, and that's why we do need the support of the brilliant cohorts we have, because we've all got really good knowledge of that stuff. But we can bring in people who are literally some of the best people in the world around some of those specific things and do it kind of credibly. So, it's dead exciting. And I think that's, for me, what's so exciting as well, because I've been there, done that. We all have. And now we're putting ourselves into kind of new situations where we're quite uncomfortable in some areas. But that's
good, isn't it?
Oh, my God.
It
is so exciting.
Yeah.
It is so massively exciting, and people are interested and want to hear, and that's fantastically liberating.
Exactly, and you go back to we talked about at the beginning, the reaction that we've had to the just to the launch announcement. Thank you for that, Maya. But it actually demonstrates to me something again a bit deeper, which is a huge appetite out there for anyone, please, to come and talk to me in an optimistic, positive, empowering way really about what we can achieve, what marketing, what comms can achieve, that's what we're going to do.
So it's kind of reframing it from challenges and solutions, like to actually, where's your business going?
Or what's the problem?
Or
even, because sometimes they don't even know what the problem is.
Or telling them what the problem is.
Exactly.
Identifying the problem.
How can we help you move forward wherever you're going?
Yeah. And we've created a suite of products. So we're product-led as well. So it'd be like, we have a product for that, or we have a product for this. And when I say we've created it, we have a few of them. Stu is cooking some of the others up, or will be. It's one of his first jobs when he.
What sort of areas
starts.
are your products in?
There will be things like purpose and Sorry, Stu.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. Again, it's one of those long-standing frustrations I have with the industry that, and it comes back to that superficial, superficialness.
Really.
What do we sell as an industry? PR. What is it? It's so badly articulated by the vast majority of our industry. And we thought, if there was a way we could actually hone this down to a set of core products with clear outputs and outcomes. So, for example, one that we're exploring is looking at how a business or a brand that might have been around for a number of years and been very successful historically, but needs to make a significant step change, maybe because they've got a bit tired or a bit old, or competition has come and disrupted their category, whatever. And we started thinking, okay, well, that's a business problem that has happened countless times in the world. And if we look back at the examples of that and companies that solved that well, and how did they make that step change, that transformative shift to become or re-become iconic, could we codify that somehow down to, okay, what were the things they did? What are the common ingredients of doing that well? And turn that into a product. It's really more of a recipe, I suppose, for how that could then be tailored and applied to brand X, Y, Z. But again, and Nik has said it, that management consultancy mindset rather than a media relations focused PR industry mindset that has been a bugbear of mine for years, and I just think we have this once in a lifetime opportunity to design something from scratch, to not just serve clients of today, but to get ahead of the industry curve, because I think everyone will get to what we're talking about eventually. But if we can leap ahead of that, and then we're going to be in a really good place.
So it's worth saying, sorry, just that I certainly feel that there is a place for all sorts of agencies in the world. So we're not just saying this is the only right way of doing it. This is our way of doing it, and it's our reaction to the world around us. It's not for everyone else, and there are plenty of incredibly successful agencies who behave very differently to that. But if this is the bet that we are placing, and it's on our combined history and knowledge, but most importantly, it's deeply seated kind of passion area for us. And
no, I can hear that.
Do you know what I mean?
You're really in it, aren't you?
Totally. And that's what united us instantly.
And so, who's your dream client then? And what kind of client? I mean, who's a blurred client? What do they look like?
I think I wouldn't want to name a brand, but it is more a kind of business. Actually, what Stu talked about. Never really interested in the ones that are peaking right now because they've got it kind of nailed. But I think there are a ton of businesses out there that have kind of passed their peak, and they need to be kind of refreshed. They need to either remind themselves of why they exist, or go back to basics. Or conversely, the other end of the spectrum, so there's the old that almost need refreshing, or the new, and we're having a lot of these conversations with these types of businesses at the moment, incredibly fast-growing businesses who, at this point in time could either, if they're not careful, become an Uber, or they could become an Airbnb. So it's actually both ends of the spectrum, but mostly it's people who are open-minded and who also aren't resting on their laurels and who just, want to stay ahead of the game. And inevitably, a lot of those big businesses are the ones that are facing kind of challenges they couldn't have imagined before. Maybe around ocean waste or changing legislation, etc. Yet they still need to be relevant with their young people, and that stuff really excites us when it's at both ends of that spectrum.
Well, businesses are grappling with more stuff that they have to think about than ever before. I mean, yes, it's about the bottom line because there's no point otherwise. But there's where your place in the world as a business, and what journey you're on, and who's coming on that journey with you is like hugely important now, and it maybe wasn't even a decade ago. And you've won your first client, StockX. Yeah. Well done. Tell me about how you're applying that blurred thinking to the work you're doing for them.
So StockX, for anyone that doesn't know, is they frame themselves as a stock market of things. They're essentially a e-commerce site that specialise in the resale of brand new but limited edition, highly collectible trainers as their first area, but and their main area, but also handbags and watches, so luxury limited edition items. But their modelling is based on the stock market, so they're able to connect buyers and sellers and ensure they're basically around to make it a more democratised market, so enable people to be able to get their hands on the latest Yeezy if you haven't been able to be lucky enough to get one of the 100-odd pairs that ever is sold at one point and one time. So we're working with them on their European launch, so we've just launched them across Europe, but we're also working with them again, as Nick mentioned earlier. They are a hyper-growth client. They're $1 billion, $1 billion business in the States.
2 years and 2 years. Whoa. I mean, they are like, it's mind-blowing.
And they had 130 employees or something in April, and they're now well over 500. They're growing at the speed of light. They'd happily, I think, recruit another 1,000 people tomorrow if they could, because they're growing so quickly. So it's really working with them very closely, just to help them navigate that and make sure that they're set up in the right way, and that they deliver an amazing product and an amazing service, and they're a great brand and a great business. They've got great values at the heart of their business, so it's just making sure that they hold on to those and we can help them as they expand even further.
What's amazing, if you talk to Josh Luber, the founder, and ask him, are you a technology company, a data company, a portfolio investment vehicle, a retail site? He laughs. We're all of those things, and none. So it's all blurred. All overlapping.
They are.
But there are new paradigms of business being created that span traditional categories and definitions all the time. And I think that's just one facet of the changing world that we're talking about.
I mean, they share a whole load of values that we share, so it was a meeting of complete minds. As soon as we met them, it was like, we wanted to work with them and they wanted to work with us, because everything that lots of the things that they stand for, we stand for as well. And also the work that we're delivering spans, right through from sort of the corporate side, telling that financial investor story, which is quite a complex story, but a very interesting one, and also then connecting, sneakerheads in and around Europe with the product and with the site. So, I mean, it is a great first client for us to have. It's a brilliant brand. We're all very passionate about it, but it also just feels just blurred through and through.
Yeah. And there was a horrific moment when I first met the CEO. He's a kind of sneaker-wearing, baseball-wearing Korean guy, and he went in for the kind of special street handshake stroke hug thing. I went for the very British handshake. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to like relearn a load of cultural. It was like really like, you know, when you go for the kiss and it's complicated. This was a totally different thing. I was like, oh my God, I wake up in the night and it kind of still haunts me.
The haunting grief.
Yeah, it haunts me. But even in, you know, the pitch, we were like, this is what CEOs look like now. You know, you are representative of the CEO. Kylie Jenner, you know, is, for example, she is, you know, a businesswoman now. And this is our point, is people who, people don't want to be categorised, nor should they be lumped into certain kind of groups anymore. And I'm talking about specific individuals there, but that's how we feel generally as kind of, you know,
although I'm the age, there's only one Kylie for me, I'm afraid. Yes, Jenner,
well,
it's Minogue.
That's quite all right. Well, I couldn't even remember which of them it was, so, you know.
I'm paging Arun, the boss, loves his trainers. He'll probably be in touch.
Oh, okay.
So where do you see the agency going, just so we can wrap up? What's the goal for each of you in term? Nick, where are you going with Blurred? What's the vision?
Well, basically, if we continue on the trajectory of the last 2 weeks, I will be an extremely happy lady. For me, it is about fast growth, simply because I'm not new to this. You know, I've done this a few times before. I'm not, frankly, willing, nor do I have the patience to do the kind of first slow couple of years before you hit kind of growth. So, you know, we want to get there kind of fast. And that's also because I think what we're attracted to now are clients with big problems. And that is what has been so exciting, is that the kinds of things we're pitching for already and the conversations we're having are big things.
You've really gone in fast.
Yeah, we have. So for me, that's what I want us to maintain is, you know, grow a purpose-led business ourselves. And that's something that's quite unique to us in the sense of Nick Poord, who I mentioned, who is a non-exec director but purely focused on people and purpose. You know, her whole role in life is to make sure we never accidentally veer off the path. Because you know what it's like, you know, suddenly we win 3 pitches, we need bodies on seats, and we could be tempted to go, oh, we'll just get this person in, they look great. She'll be the one that goes, no, my friend. You know, she will interview every person. She will ensure that they represent our values. She will ensure we will never take anything that isn't true to our purpose. So fast growth combined with us not forgetting who we are is the aim, which frankly is also the aim of most of our clients, interestingly enough.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Katie?
As always, Nick has articulated probably what all 3 of us would say, because we're so united in how we think. But I guess in addition to that, for me, if I think of like the legacy or what I would look back on and think we did a really bloody good job, is to be able to think we changed businesses significantly. So our business will always be, hopefully, very successful, you know, and we'll be very much rooted in what we want to do, and we'll only be delivering the work that we want to do. But I also want to be able to look at the businesses that we've worked with and think, you know, we were part of that. We were able to turn around that brand, or
Great answer, Katie. Yeah. Great answer.
Help build a brand. Like, that's really important to me.
What about you, Stu?
Well, yeah, I mean, my point will be a natural build from that. So I'm fond of saying. And it comes back to the depth of partnership as well, point from earlier. But, you know, clients will pay us, but we will pay them back. And that's that transformative point. But the build is, by doing that, I genuinely want to be able to look back and say, Blurred helped transform the reputation of our industry, of our category. It does not. It does not have to be the poor relation of every other slice of the marketing pie. In fact, it should sit above all of them. We should be in you know, the ear of CEOs, COOs, CFOs, setting the entire agenda that gets passed down to the marketing and the advertising, and that's one of the moonshot ambitions of Blurred, and I believe we'll get there. And
if you look at my face, you see genuinely this is the joy.
Beaming.
Every day. This is the joy. It's just like we may come at it from slightly different perspectives, but we are completely aligned on what's possible, and that's what brings me genuine joy in my daily life now.
Well, your ambitions and frustrations with the industry really reflect why I've been writing about it for nearly 20 years as well. So I'm kind of with you on the journey. I love the energy between you. Very simpatico. I can really feel that you're all kind of what you're all adding and goodness only knows what the cohorts are going to bring when you finally tell me who's on those lists.
Good time.
I wish you every success in bringing a little bit of the blurred magic to the world of comms and business, and thank you very much for joining me in the Echo Chamber.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Echo Chamber. Brought to you by The Holmes Report and produced by Marketeers. Sponsored by March Communications, connecting innovation and people.